He used to be a human who died of overworking. He then reincarnates in a new world where he eliminated demons for 300 years. Now, he is back to Earth, and with his return, he brought unexpected beings with him. This story starts with the reincarnation of our yet-to-be-named MC in a different world. Unlike the one he lived in before, at first sight, he can immediately tell that he has reincarnated to a fantasy world that is behind Earth's civilization. Seeing a maid in waiting, he surmised that he was born in a wealthy household. For an orphan who died from overworking in his previous life, he finds himself lucky to be reincarnated in a decent place this time. Though still a baby, another reason why he can tell a household is rich is because of his mother's looks. The woman, speaking in a different language, is exceedingly beautiful. With his mother's good looks, our MC is relieved that he won't have any issues regarding his love life when that time comes. You've reincarnated, and that's what you're worried about. 3 years have passed, and he could finally look out the window and see the world for himself. He looks out in wonder, commenting on how otherworldly it truly is. His admiration is cut off short when a maid finds him standing atop a chair looking out the window. The servant worries that he might fall off and whisks him away from the window. Our MC apologizes to his nanny while thinking about how he learned that he was born into a family that's part of the Grand Duchy well known throughout the kingdom. His father is the Grand Duke of Draconia from the Kingdom of Lionheart. Wow, our MC is winning in life with this reincarnation. By the time he turned 8, he received a sword. Our MC started learning swordsmanship to become a knight of the Lionheart Kingdom. He was very enthusiastic about it, imagining how he learned sword chi and aura. That's too cliche. As an older man living in the body of a young boy, he was so excited to learn from his master, the Holy Knight Sir Gothic. The palace dispatched the knight to teach him, and their first meeting went well. As the days turned to years, our MC now curses at his master, claiming it as child abuse. At the age of 14, he believes that holy knights are monsters in human skin. For becoming one, it's extremely difficult. For a young teen, he's already pulling a huge rock more than his size, and his master is the type to urge him to do another lap. Aside from power training, there is also sparring with his master. Becoming a holy knight requires more than these. He must complete quests, gain experience and honor, get chosen by the Holy Grail, and drink the holy water. On top of this, as Dragonia's son, he must learn everything needed to become a Grand Duke. Our MC gets distracted by his thoughts and gets scolded by his master during their spar, earning him a defeat. With these responsibilities, he can only ask to be saved by God if he or she truly exists. Exhausted with the spar, he remains on the ground, breathing hard with his limbs shaking from exhaustion. He still wants to be saved even though he doesn't really believe in any religion. After 2 years, our MC started roaming the world on his own, aiming to get acknowledged by the goddess. Once he accepts his quest, he will turn into a holy knight. As he ponders how he can get the goddess acknowledgement, he finds a town being attacked by a swarm of orcs from a distance. He thinks earning fame through good deeds that will get the goddess attention is ridiculous. Some warriors in the town are already fighting the orcs, and Groot is even one of them. They are losing hope since many of them have already been slain, but they still pray to the goddess to look over them. With the coming of orcs in that village, it became one of the opportunities for our MC to wield his sword, and it made him concerned about this fact. Upon seeing the orcs slay humans with his own eyes, our MC calls them trash. He immediately attacks the orcs with his sword, and it is then that he comes to know that the Kingdom of Lionheart has too many enemies. By the time our MC turned 20, it was then that he met the goddess and became a believer. The goddess greeted him, the son of Wulfric Dragonia, Leon Dragonia. Finally, a name for our MC. The goddess says she'll give him a quest to prove himself, and Leon quickly accepts it before even hearing the details. He's more amazed by the fact that the goddess actually exists. After years of toiling to complete his quest, Leon Dragonia finally achieved it and became a holy knight. Right after that, he continued slaying enemies in the goddess's name. Leon slayed him, from orcs, goblins, to evil cults. It is to the point that he became a war knight of the Lionheart Kingdom. This position gave him the right to lead other knights. With this authority, Leon was able to massacre the race of orcs. Going against them made him develop a deep hatred for the race. It is to the extent of feeling a sense of refreshment when he gets to slay them. Leon was at the age of 35 when the living saint and demigod, Argent Majesty Lionheart, died. The saint died in his fight against the archdemon that was summoned by the Empire. Leon thought that orcs were already a headache, so adding demons to the mix worsened it. For a believer of 15 years, Leon strongly believes that this is why humans must turn their faith to the gods. For a previous non-believer, our MC is the classic example of to see is to believe. Whatever the case may be, Leon is completely irked with the magicians of the Empire. Putting this all aside, the Lionheart Kingdom needs a new Holy Knight elected as the successor of the previous King Lionheart. So despite the chaos, Leon proved himself as the symbol of honor and faith, and it is for this reason that the goddess selected him. Leon accepts Goddess Ariana's decision despite knowing this is an arduous task. It includes the responsibility to the citizens and knights of the kingdom. With that, he transplanted the sacred treasure he received from the goddess, the Lionheart. Leon vowed to protect the Holy Grail as the Grand Duke of Dragonia and the King of Lionheart Kingdom. Living in this world for 80 years, numerous things have happened. Leon fought wars, 3 of which were the Great Wars against the Orcs. There was also that incident with a weird hunchback goblin that turned into an archdemon. Aside from that, the Empire created more problems for everyone. And at present, the Empire is at it again with their School of Dark Magicians doing an experiment. For a second, I thought of various methods to counter the Dark Magician deck, but I doubt that will work here. Leon looks at the battlefield, thinking about all of this mayhem caused by the Empire when they opened their arms to a darned northern cult and separated itself from the gods. He believes that this is what happens when human rights are given to those who don't deserve it. So to resolve this, Leon opts to conquer all. In the 96th year of his life, Leon curses the Empire and even more so of its emperor for sacrificing 3 million lives just to grant his selfish request. For a coward who says he doesn't want to die, he ends up taking his and his citizens' lives to summon the Lord of Chaos in the Empire's capital. To fight the Lord of Chaos, Leon took his holy sword that still hadn't dried from the orcs' grease from the previous year. He led the Holy Knights to another battle with the Empire. 121 years in his life, Leon continuously fought enemies, but the world is on the brink of its destruction. He did his utmost to defeat all evil that crossed his path using the divine power he received from the gods. Unfortunately, it wasn't good enough. As Leon mulls over his inability, a Holy Knight calls him. Leon doesn't look back, but he calls the knight, Sir Aaron, and tells him that he can be proud of his father, who died with honor. He assures his subordinate that his late father has joined the feast of the gods. With tear-rimmed eyes, Sir Aaron believes this to be the truth. Leon prays to the goddess as he instructs his troops. He urges everyone to fight the villains who have destroyed the lands, and he continues to pray for the goddess to look over them. He ignites the hearts of his subordinates to take arms against those who had taken the lives of those precious to them. Leon remains resolute in the eyes of other mortals, urging them to enrage and fight those who trample on them. At the same time, he is aware that as the Knight of the Holy, he is incapable of stopping all evil. Leon takes the holy sword out of thin air as he continues to pray, asking for guidance. He leads his people to a fight for the goddess. Hearing his pleas, the goddess reassures her beloved knight that she will be with him until the end. Resolved by his goddess words, he leads everyone to the fight against devils. It was winter at that time. The barbarian slaves met their end as meat shields, while the civilian and glorious knights fought and died honorably. It is no doubt grotesque, but this is what a war entails. As the chosen agent of the gods and holy temples, Leon slayed all the demons to the end on his own. Whatever kind of demon it is, he proved his power as a holy knight and destroyed his enemies. Years passed, and at the age of 217, winter continues. He tirelessly fought all sorts of enemies. Time continues to move forward. By the time he reached 256 years of age, Leon was able to destroy that last demon gate in the land. His enemies have nowhere else to escape to. Though alone, he remains steadfast in fighting against the servants of evil. Those evil beings are now stuck with him in that world, and the only thing left for them is to meet their end in Leon's hands. The demons are sweating and lamenting, for they know that Leon will make true of his world. Leon believes he isn't stuck, even if the abominable beings are stuck in that world with him. He slays each one that he encounters. It's that half-empty, half-full mindset thingy. 300 years in his life as Leon. The Night King continues to fight. It was at that time that he met other humans. One of the humans asks his companion, Hari, if she is alright. They were a bit confused at what transpired, but seeing him defeat an archdemon with one slash amazed this group of humans. Leon calls the woman courageous and motivates her to rise and continue to fight. The humans look at him with indescribable looks on their faces and ask who our king is. Leon is releasing a golden aura with a holy sword in one hand, and he's in his birthday suit. He introduces himself as King Lionheart, the Knight of the Glorious Knights and the agent tasked with the will of holy temples. Leon Dragonia Lionheart. He says all this while looking down at them. It was in this 300th year that he met the Earthlings and defeated all the demons of that world, and the Night King has returned. Back on Earth, a gate appeared in the middle of Seoul, and its rank is unknown due to its black color. The Korean Hunter Association and the World Hunter Association have asked the large guilds of Korea to join the raid of this unknown gate, but this was rejected due to the gate's unknown nature. Yep, everyone is afraid to meet their end. Because of this, the government has ordered the Korean Hunter Association to head to the gate first. This order is akin to an execution, and the Korean Hunter Association has no choice but to comply. It was at that gate that they met our Night King in his full glory. Lucky them. Someone snaps Associate Manager Hun Hari out of her thoughts. It was the guy who was with her when they entered the gate. The man, Kim Jin-soo, is the head manager of the Korean Hunter Association. He hands Hari a cup of coffee and asks her about it. Hari replies that no one believes them because the gate is a black rank with a great devil within it. They're getting back alive without any help from other guilds is already a miracle. Clearing it on top of that makes the story unbelievable, but it was all possible due to one man's existence. And that man they're talking about is none other than our Night King. He's a prime example of those people they call survivor from the other world. They were beings who managed to survive in the Gate realm. Leon is not the first survivor, for there have been such stories since the Gates appeared 30 years ago. Oh, so having a returnee is considered normal. The realm that the Gate leads to has the theme of a world on the brink of destruction or was already destroyed. In rare cases, survivors managed to go to Earth with the Earthlings who entered it. These survivors were able to keep the astonishing strength they've gained, which is why the government does its utmost to cater to their needs. At the same time, they plan the scouting of the said survivors. Hari tells Jin-soo that they must scout this survivor, whatever the case may be, for he has proved his prowess while they were in the gate. Jin-soo agrees since he knows that even an A-rank hunter has to gamble his life when faced with a high-ranking demon. Yet this survivor before them has slain it in one attack. The monster inside that gate is something even S-rankers are afraid of, and the survivor didn't just slay it. It was a total domination of power. Yep, our king made killing monsters look graceful as if it were an art form. Hearing that the survivor is of royalty from his world, Jin-soo can't help but worry about the cultural difference. Hari thinks it will be fine, and Jin-soo asks what makes her think that way. Hari blushes as she says she can tell it, based on the survivor's voice, that he's a good person. As Hari said this, Leon loudly scolded the man before him, destroying the glass window with his voice alone. With that kind of voice, our king can easily become a singer if he desires it. Hari and Jin-soo were surprised at how the glass that could even stop monsters was easily destroyed. Leon scolds the Baldy before him for dirtying the Lionheart name, and the man apologizes quickly to the king of Lionheart. Jin-soo repeats Hari's words about the survivor being a good person. Hari looks away, claiming that the issue must be cultural difference. 15 minutes before that incident, Leon is calmly sitting with a representative. He deems the experience foreign since his previous life before becoming Leon was vastly different. In his previous life, he lived as an orphan and slaved away in his 20s to earn a living. It was during that time that he died due to exhaustion. After his death, he'd reincarnated and became a knight and a king for the Lionheart Kingdom for over a century. Leon vanquished all the demons of that world in the span of 200 years. He spent a total of 300 years in his new life, so he is relieved that he still has memories of his previous life as an orphan. It must be the perks of being a knight of the gods. The Baldy hesitantly calls for our king's attention by greeting him with his full name. Leon looks at Baldy, but he remains engrossed with thoughts that he can't reveal how he used to be an earthling since it would be a disadvantage. He thinks that a Night King of 300 years old is better than a 20-something guy who died from overworking. Making his decision, he glares at Baldy. Leon then commands Baldy to refer to him as Your Majesty while calling the other peasant. Baldy is confused and frowns at this, but he really can't talk back to a survivor, so he just scratches his head and corrects himself. Leon is relieved that this guy is playing along, wondering if Baldy is simply being nice or if this is how the government is regarding survivors like him. Seeing that this is the case, Leon plans to take advantage of it. Baldy starts to talk about the Black Gate, then corrects himself by calling it Your Majesty's world. He explains how it got in contact with their hunters and confirms if Your Majesty has slain all those demons. Leon confirms this and asks if Baldy has already forgotten. This got Baldy confused, and he wondered what His Majesty meant. Leon says he killed all the evil species and protected the honor of the knights, then commands Baldy to be his temporary secretary. He even makes a spectacle of it by making Baldy record the incident as if it were his privilege. Lol, our king is really enjoying himself. Though a bit confused, Baldy nonetheless agrees, thinking this is simply a case of cultural difference. Suddenly, Leon questions the lack of etiquette in treating royalty, which is a roundabout way of saying he's hungry. It's a good thing that Baldy is wise enough to understand what His Majesty means and immediately contacts someone to prepare some food. After Baldy makes an order, Leon asks him about the world they're in. He intends to figure out what happened to Earth after he died. Baldy then explains how it all started 30 years ago when gates appeared and opened worldwide. From the gates appeared monsters and demons, and the nations were in a constant emergency. Through numerous losses, they learn how each gate has a different theme and clear quest. Baldy adds how unattended gates will create a dungeon break, and monsters will come out to invade Earth. Oh, it's the typical solo leveling or S-classes that I raised setup, except our MC is a returnee. A knock on the door made Baldy stand up, saying it must be the meal. Leon gives a sound of assent while pondering how it is different in the world he just came from. Demons would typically pop up like mushrooms after a rain, while on Earth, the gates have themes and even quests. He can only think of how the humans are being trained by letting them go through trials. The door to the room opens while Baldy calls His Majesty. Baldy comes into the room with a tray with steaming food on it. He then places the food in front of Leon, who eyes the food with discerning eyes. Leon identifies the food as bone broth, kimchi, and rice, or a meal commonly called seal leon tang. Leon recalls his life as an earthling. He was a laborer who considered the seal leon tang as a soul food. He knows well that people will most likely enjoy the food they're accustomed to. Leon looks at it with a dark face, wholly torn with the temptation before him. He denies himself and questions Baldy about what the food is. Baldy answers that it is seal leon tang, also known as the soul food of peasants. With those words, Leon acts befitting to his status. He curses at Baldy for tarnishing the glorious Lionheart name. He raged for getting served with a peasant's dish. He asks if this is how they serve the royalty of another kingdom, for he is Leon Dragonia Lionheart, a royal from another world who serves as a proxy for the gods. He is the guardian of the Holy Grail and the owner of the Holy Sword and the Holy Spear. Baldy tries to explain that it was not his intention, but Leon doesn't let him finish. He commands him to get out, calling Baldy an inferior peasant. Whoa, that's harsh. The status of Leon far exceeds the expectations of a typical Earthling. He is proud to be recognized as the arch-nemesis of demons and as the literal incarnation of a 300-year war against the spawn of evil. Though he used to be an Earthling, he finds the world a complete mess. For him, the root cause of this is the lack of proper religious faith. This thought further enraged him, and he can only think how it is up to him to enlighten these peasants as royalty. He might be a returnee, but that doesn't change the fact that he is the Night King. He might be representing the gods, but he still shouldn't have wasted food. A knife cuts into a steak, and Leon puts a piece of the cut meat into his mouth. Jin-Soo is curious at how the chicken and black bean noodles were recognized, while Hari is only relieved that Leon is at least eating the steak and the red wine made in 1993. That's a significant upgrade from seal leon tang. A bit daunted, Jin-Soo tells Hari that she should go first. Hari panics, saying she can't use historical language. Jin-Soo says she has more of a shot since he thinks the survivor is a bit interested in Hari. He then reminds her of how she got complimented for her bravery. So in a sense, Jin-Soo is sure that she won't be kicked out. Hari questions this logic, but in the end, she is the one who approaches our king first. Hari enters the room and apologizes for interrupting His Majesty's meal. Leon recognizes her as the swordsman he met and tells her to sit. Hari smiles brightly at this and gives a thumbs-up sign behind her back. The room is being monitored through a surveillance camera, and the viewers are sweating as they watch. Hari sits down and asks about His Majesty's meal. Leon says it wasn't bad and even compliments the chef. He then explains that he isn't giving them a hard time because of the food. Instead, it was because of their attitude to him, the king. Leon goes on to lecture on how royalty from foreign lands should be treated according to their status, for this will reflect the status of the host nation. Hari pales at this and quickly apologizes for disrespecting him due to her lack of knowledge. Leon dismisses the matter and asks for her name. Hari stutters a bit and answers him. Leon says how he heard about their world and how the demons appeared. Hari gets serious and confirms this. Hari's interaction with the king is to have him join the Hunter Association of their country. She asks for His Majesty's royal permission to let the South Korean government look after him. Oh, so their aim is to make him an asset to the country. In the 21st century intelligence war, the main goal is to scout survivors. Nations would do this no matter how much resources they have to spend, all for the sake of stopping these survivors from joining other countries. Understanding the situation without having it spelled out to him, Leon says he has a duty to the battlefield. As an honorable knight that he is, this is the right thing to do. At His Majesty's positive remark, Hari asks if he will affiliate himself with the South Korean Hunters Association. Bursting her happy bubble, Leon specifies that he is a king and can't be a soldier for another nation. He announces that he'll create the new Knight's Order in that world. It takes some time for Hari to process what His Majesty just announced, and she can't reject this. So all she can do is nod. You have a hard time ahead of you, Assistant Manager. Hari asks what they're higher ups said about this, and Jin-soo tells her how they'll give their support on the matter. What matters is that His Majesty didn't go to any other country or even join a guild. Hari slumps, thinking how the association and South Korean government can only accept the whims of His Majesty. She then gets frustrated, thinking that all of this only happened because of those good-for-nothings from the large guilds. Hearing this, Jin-soo mentions the Phoenix Guild, but he stops when there is a loud alarm heard throughout the office. Jin-soo checks his phone and finds an urgent message that warns them of a dungeon break in the Honan Plains. Realizing that the place is a granary, Jin-soo can immediately tell that food production will be halted once the demonic element spreads. Hari is confused about the matter, for she knows that the S-ranker Lee Yang-won from Phoenix Guild can easily stop an orange-colored gate. Jin-soo gets irritated at the mention of the guild and says that those guys have a different plan in mind, and they must stop them immediately. Jin-soo then curses loudly at the Phoenix Guild. I smell some bad blood between them. Leon hears this from inside the room and understands the situation based on Hari and Jin-soo's talk from the other side of the door. Leon knows they're in trouble, and the crops are goners if the grounds get infected. He checks the place with his divine power and concludes it doesn't have it. Using his power, he asks if the other is well through his thoughts and calls for Demera. In a bright place with a majestic castle, a woman in a green hood looks back and smiles. She must be Demera, and she heard our king's call. The rice plants are in poor condition, as an orange gate opened right in the middle of the place. Someone yells for Hunter Lee Yang-won and demands an explanation. The smug-looking guy answers the call and asks if they're from the association. He is Lee Yang-won, the S-rank guild master in the Phoenix Guild. Yang-won greets Section Chief Kim and Hari, calling her a rookie. Jin-soo glares at Yang-won, knowing full well that the other let the dungeon break happen since the association didn't accept their request. Yang-won only smirks back at him. The said guild has requested tax exemption for the profits they get from the gates. The Phoenix Guild has been profiting from byproducts they gain from the gates, on top of the magic crystals and materials collected from monsters. What they want to happen is to get exempted from paying the 1 trillion tax. Jin-soo is irritated since the large guild already has a lot of benefits, yet they can stoop down this low just because their request was rejected. Hari yells at the urgency to close the gate. It has already been a week, and leaving it that way will worsen it. Yang-won looks away with a smile, saying he is well aware of this. He even adds how the authority of the auction gate will be given to someone else. But Yang-won points out that he can't do anything since his members are injured, and they can't raid in that state. Dude, everyone here has eyes. We can all see that they're all well with all those nasty grins on their faces. Yang-won claims they'll try to do it tomorrow, but there is no sure outcome. This response angers Hari, questioning his lack of patriotism and compassion despite knowing fully what will happen once Hama Plains gets infected. With a crazy grin, Yang-won claims ignorance on the matter. Yang-won then asks why she is being childish when he even told her from last year's draft that justice is money and power in their world. Another person speaks up, saying the other is narrow-minded and old-fashioned. Hari is surprised to find that Leon, His Majesty, is there. Leon warns her not to utter a king's name so lightly. He reminds her that he only allowed her to refer to him by his title. Not knowing who he is facing, Yang-won questions who Leon is, even commenting on how he looks like a Westerner. Leon doesn't give a crap and commands him to be quiet. He is angered by the fact that a low person like him dares to talk. Yang-won is equally angered, for he is being looked down on despite being one of the 20 S-rankers in the world and the guild master of one of the top 10 guilds. Think twice, brah, your title is nothing compared to our king's. Yang-won unleashes fire from his left hand, asking if Leon wants to die. Hari stops him, telling him that the man before them is a survivor. Hearing that he is a survivor, Yang-won's demeanor completely changes, and he even bows before Leon as he apologizes for his rudeness. This time, he properly introduces himself to Leon and asks if Leon came from somewhere. Leon only says that a king doesn't repeat himself and ignores Yang-won. Leon looks at Jin-soo and asks about the problem, the details of the gate, and to keep it concise. Jin-soo and Hari look relieved and are expectant to the help of His Majesty. Hari quickly explains that a dungeon break lets a significant demonic element out, infecting the land. For an area like the Hama Plains, it means that crops won't be able to grow in the contaminated land. And this is the current situation of the plains. Leon walks around and asks for their solution. Hari answers that purifying the area, clearing the dungeon, and getting rid of it is the solution. Leon stops walking and says he understands now. The main problem is the infected land and the growing gate. He then instructs them to call their forces. Leon then announces that once the raid limit for the small fries ends tomorrow, he's talking about the Phoenix Guild. He, the king, will personally take over. Hari is now completely relieved that they'll be receiving the help of a survivor. But Leon is not yet finished. He states that as a king of a foreign land, he can't do as he pleases in a territory that's not his. He requests the permission of the king of that land. Hari is entirely stumped and says she thinks it's okay. Still, His Majesty won't budge, saying they must follow legitimate protocols. Our king is a stickler for rules. Leon then mentions how Hari can call herself a knight when she can't abide by the laws. He shouts and urges them to send the message to their king. Looking at this spectacle, Yang Wan can't help thinking this guy's worse than him. Left with no choice, the association contacted the president of South Korea and was given permission. Night came, and Hari said they'd done the preparations that His Majesty requested. She asks what His Majesty's plan is with it, referring to the straw doll she's holding. Leon looks back at her and says they need to purify the land. Hari is a bit surprised and asks if this will be done using the straw doll. She recalls how His Majesty requested two things. The first is the straw doll, and the second is that it should be made by a woman who has given birth. Leon looks in a shelter filled with women who are creating dolls. Some of them are accompanied by their spouse. Leon instructs everyone to show him the dolls they've made. It's basically a straw doll-making competition. Leon looks at one doll, saying it's impossible. He ridicules the created doll and destroys it with his power. Another chicken-looking doll receives the same fate, while another woman is even called foolish for her creation. Wait, Hari made that. Does that mean she has a child? Or did she just join for fun? A pile of rejected dolls lies on the floor, but the 89th woman catches Leon's attention. It was an old married woman who created a charming doll. Leon asks the woman how many children she has given birth to. The old woman smiles as she answers 12, and Leon doesn't hold back on his compliments for the old woman. He even kisses the old woman's hand with respect. He apologizes for his lack of expressing his appreciation for her deed, making the older woman chuckle. With the doll in hand, Leon approaches a small makeshift table with a candle and places the doll on top of it.